Okay, so for my review of an article, I chose a New York Times piece about the current situation with the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine. This article reminded me of the case study that we just reviewed with Merck. And so being a drug company, I thought maybe, it would be interesting to see if there were any similarities. When I reviewed this article, I did not pick up on any really blatant ethical issues or unethical behaviors that Johnson & Johnson has displayed, at least that has come out so far. There was an issue a few weeks ago, I think, with a Baltimore plant, Johnson & Johnson plant, that is making the COVID vaccines, and there was a batch of the vaccine that was contaminated. So, maybe some issues there. I don't know the whole story, but that wasn't really the emphasis of this article. Some highlights basically that I came up with. So, as a result of getting the Johnson & Johnson COVID vaccine, 6 people have developed a rare blood clotting disorder afterwards. There is more research that is needed to find out, what's happening with that, what's going on. So there has been a pause out of an abundance of caution to try to figure out the root cause. The vaccine trial and rollout are now under scrutiny by the public, or have been under scrutiny by the public eye. And government officials want to maintain public confidence in the vaccines. I'm sure there's been, a lot of back and forth about, is it still in the trial stage, and others are saying it's good to go. There's no reason for concern or caution. So there are both those things happening. And then with this new development, everybody wants the public to be confident in the vaccine. And so that's why they have chosen to pause the Johnson & Johnson version. This article really did downplay the situation with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Also, along with that, there's another one called AstraZeneca vaccine, which has had some similar issues with causing blood clotting. This pause, the article says, will allow for people to get educated on risk factors to look for and give time for more research. And then also, some people are worried that the pause will hurt the momentum that the vaccine has been having in general. So some of the critics of the choice to pause also argue that people should be allowed to make their own choice if they want to take a risk of a blood clot, a rare form of a blood clot that is also not known exactly the best way to cure. So it's not an easy thing that you just go into your doctor and get help with. So it's rare, and there's difficult things along with it. The article quoted Biden as saying that there's enough vaccine that is basically 100% unquestionable. So he obviously is confident in the other vaccines, that he's not worried that this will be a problem. And then of the AstraZeneca, it did mention that there were 222 out of the 34 million. So those are the highlights of what was going on. And for me, looking at this article through kind of the lens of what we've read in this chapter, I didn't see, like I said, clear ethical violations, but I thought of the different major ethical perspectives that you can take in kind of, looking at something like this. So you can take the altruistic approach, which would be based on doing what is best or good for another person. or the justice approach, which would be, each person has a basic right to liberties, and if there is an injustice, then we need to make it right. Or the utilitarianism, which says the standard is the greatest good for the greatest number of people. In general, my experience with public health, as well as what is happening with the vaccine, is that the government and CDC and a lot of our officials are taking the utilitarianism approach to ethics. So we want the greatest number of people, to be protected, and if a few we lose here and there, that's gonna happen. So I say that sort of jokingly because I feel like that's not the best approach. My view would be more altruistic, that it's important to do what's good for all the people, and that just because most of them are okay, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't dig further and find out what's going on so that we can prevent harm to anyone. The road you take as far as your perspective on ethics is going to determine your choices and the choices of the organization. So these are very important positions, and it's worth kind of digging deeper and finding out what your morals align with. Thanks.